Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Hallowed Be Thy Game. Ren here, and today I'm joined by my best friend, Ionic. If you're a fan of RPGs and general discussions about the games we all know and love, then you've definitely found friends in this channel.
We post at least once a week on topics ranging from pickup videos, new releases, and games that have become hallowed in our hearts.
So thank you so much for watching. Today we're going to be talking about our top 5 favorite turn-based RPGs. Let's get into it. All right, let's get into this. Now, I do want to start by saying this is not a shared list. We each actually have our own individual top 5. But, funny enough, we both have the same number 5. Dragon Quest XI. What a classic good versus evil tale. And what's so amazing is that there's a unique spin on the story, so it makes it not so predictable. This game will have you rolling on the floor at times and then turn right around and hit you in the feels. The cast of characters is so distinct, and even though they have levied criticism about some of the cast, I still found every single member endearing and lovable. I genuinely believe this group of ragtag adventurers is one of my favorite parties in all of gaming. Sylvando is one of my favorites.
The Switch version of the game runs beautifully. The visuals and combat transitions are nigh flawless. The cities are dense with NPCs, and the entire world feels alive. Blasting through the field on your trusty stallion while trampling cute foes, you will not experience a slight hiccup and lag. This is one of my favorite ports to the Switch. The orchestrated soundtrack added to the Switch version is hypnotic and so catchy.
The Dragon Quest series for a long time rarely updated or changed anything about their approach to combat and gameplay. Dragon Quest XI changed just enough to where it is a much more approachable to new fans of the genre, but also keeping the atmosphere of a classic turn-based combat. The PEP system offers unique takes on adding real-time dynamics to combat. A really cool feature for the Switch is the option to play in traditional 16-bit. This edition alone is phenomenal, but I personally played this game in the normal version of the game where the characters are visible in combat. Also, speeding up combat animations was a very nice quality of life change to the game.
This game's story and characters are one of my favorites in the Final Fantasy series. Hironobu Sakaguchi himself even said it is his favorite of the Final Fantasy series. This game has created a passionate following as the years have passed. At the time of its release, it was considered a drastic return to form for the series. The theme for Kuja to this day is still one of the most recognizable songs for me in JRPGs. As far as characters are concerned, Vivi is such an overlooked and underrated character in the Final Fantasy series. A lot of the times, the dramatic tales of the other series received the notoriety, but spoilers aside, who did not get teary-eyed from the incredible Black Mage? As far as the PlayStation 1 game goes, Final Fantasy IX holds up rather well. It utilized the PlayStation 1's capabilities to the fullest. This game's settings and character 3D animations still hold up rather well with the unique art style. I feel that when developers model their character and location designs to fit within the limits of the hardware, it can really shine. Final Fantasy IX has that classic PS1 look to it. This was still in the heyday when Square Enix did not feel like reinventing the wheel with every Final Fantasy release. So this game just has classic turn-based action. Though Trance is not as good as Materia from Final Fantasy VII, it is still better than Junction and Draw from Final Fantasy VIII.
This game walks the very fine line of using time travel as a constant mechanic for story progression. I'll be the first to admit, time as a mechanic can be absolutely disastrous, but Radiant Historia makes it work. It is jaw-droppingly good. Words cannot describe how invested I was in this game's story, arguably the best on the list today for myself. This game has a great cast of characters, and Stock as a main character defies all the typical JRPG tropes. And to clarify, I do love the typical hero tropes, but he is a seasoned veteran of war, and he makes calculated and wise decisions. He is believable, and all throughout the story, you want him to succeed. The looming threat of the planet's destruction is palpable in all the areas you visit. but this game does an excellent job of injecting the fun, lighthearted moments into the game. The performance and presentation of Radiant Historia is one of the best on the 3DS. The game runs incredible, and its combination of combat and story presentation work hand in hand. The combat in Radiant Historia follows a tactical grid-like combo-based system. It is turn-based, it's unique, and addicting.
And though I realize that Persona 5 Royal is probably the better game, I have not beaten it yet, so I'm giving this one to Persona 5. The game has arguably one of the best cast of characters in all of gaming. The main story is unique and interesting throughout. The main story is complemented with the social stories of your confidants and their everyday life issues. Making the decision of who to hang out with or what to do on any given day can be difficult, in a good way. The game runs flawlessly on the PS4 Pro. Busy zones and colorful environments cause no problems with the game's frame rate. Since the game also runs well on the PS3, it really needs to be ported to the Switch. Wink wink. Persona 5 takes traditional turn-based combat and jazzes it up to the extreme. Flashy gameplay does not distract from the depth of the combat.
This game is encapsulated Akira Toriyama nostalgia on steroids for me. The soundtrack, the gameplay, the story. I'm whisked away to days gone by every time I play this game. A single screenshot of this game is enough to put a smile on my face. The passion and determination that the devs put into this game can be felt in the presentation. To this day, I prefer games that I can see the enemy encounters on the screen in an area. Arguments can be made that this is in fact a perfect video game. I would give anything to have a remake of this game. The recent Trials of Mana remake brings to the awareness that there are so many games that could benefit from this treatment on the Switch. I want a new generation of gamers to fall in love with the same characters that took my heart by storm so many years ago.
I have praised this game to my best friend Ren for years. The story of Ramza and Delita and the Kingdom of Ivalice is quite the tale. The story is filled with politics, friendship, tragedy, and betrayal. Though its story can be a bit dark, the game still feels like it's worthy of the name Final Fantasy. The game technically runs better on the PS1, but the updated translation and added cutscenes makes the PSP version the better choice. The PSP version does suffer slowdown in combat, but it is not enough for me to say not to play it. If this is the only means you have to play it, then by all means, dive right in. Taking place on a gridded combat environment is a real departure for the Final Fantasy series. The game is definitely a combination of Final Fantasy and Tactics Ogre. Whether it is what party members to bring to a fight, standing on higher or lower ground, or how to level your character to create new jobs, Final Fantasy Tactics has great combat depth.
The story of Final Fantasy VI is nigh legendary. I do want to give a spoiler warning for this game. Feel free to skip about a minute ahead if you're worried. Halfway through this game, the heroes straight up lose and the world is devastated. Cyan and Edgar's side stories are emotionally gut-wrenching. Sometimes I find myself in shock that a Super Nintendo game brought me to tears. As a father and a brother, these stories had me like putty in the palm of their hand. I am in awe of the emotional impact of the game's story and world building. Also, best bad guy in gaming. Final Fantasy VI has sprite animations and emotes that stand up to even modern-day sprite-based games. The hilarious and passionate reactions still translate even after all these years. At first, I didn't think I would like the Magicite system of equipping Magicite to learn abilities. However, games like SMT Nocturne utilize a similar approach of item-based ability learning. It makes each playthrough a vastly different experience in combat. Being able to pre-plan your strategy for the entire game from the beginning is fascinating and also makes speedrun watching a very fun experience.
This game is brought to you by what would be known as the Dream Team: Sakaguchi, Toriyama, and Mitsuda. It has entered my upper echelon of gaming. From the balloons popping at the Millennium Fair to the Day of Lavos, Chrono Trigger took you on a time-traveling ride of a lifetime. No spoilers, but with time travel as a center component of the game, the devs had a field day with the diversity of the main cast. All characters feel unique and special, with all of their personalities bearing traits from the time they were encountered. If you can, try and play Chrono Trigger on the Nintendo DS. There are added endings without any major alterations to the original release. The 2 screens in the DS version is a good quality of life addition to the game. The gorgeous 16-bit graphics still hold up to this day, especially seeing the world change through time. Mitsudo's passion and dedication created a timeless soundtrack that is in my current Spotify playlist and will probably always be there. Ditching the common random battle screen, Chrono Trigger favors an open approach to seeing the enemy on the screen and giving you the choice whether you want to encounter the enemy on your own terms. Even enemies that are hidden, they will always be hidden in the same place, even through a revisit of the area. Though turn-based at heart, the game's active battle system keeps you on your toes and engaged. A unique portion of the combat is the tech systems, allowing multiple characters to combine attacks to create unique abilities, the most famous of these being the X-Strike. Chrono Trigger has survived the test of time and is still one of my favorite games to this day.
What can I say about a game that is solely responsible for introducing me to my favorite series of games in the entire industry? Persona 5 has led me to Persona 4, Persona 3, SMT4 through Nocturne. I can never repay that debt of gratitude. The story in Persona 5 had me almost to heart palpitations with stress. I almost went hoarse laughing at times, and this game also had me in tears of joy by the very end. Persona 5 is in a class all of its own in terms of presentation. This is my favorite party in all of video games. Each character being so interesting, it can be difficult at times to decide who you want to spend your time with. But when in doubt, pick Makoto. The UI and visuals in this game are unparalleled in the industry. I can show someone a screenshot of the UI in this game, and even if someone has never played the game before, they could probably guess it's from Persona 5. How does Atlus top this? Where do we go from here? I have no clue, but sign me up, I am a fanboy now. The Persona 5 soundtrack is my favorite in all of video games. If it's a rainy day, get out Persona 5 soundtrack. If I need a victory song to play, then let's bust out the Persona 5 soundtrack. Combat in Persona 5 is unmatched in terms of raw mechanics and implementation in the story. The Persona and SMT series play like the adult version of Pokemon, and creating and fabricating your own team of Personas is a level of engagement all its own. Persona has steered turn-based RPGs to higher and more perfected grounds. But Persona 5 Royal has perfected the press turn formula from all the way back in SMT Nocturne. Targeting a foe's weakness rewards the player with an additional turn. This combat is in a league all of its own in terms of how much I enjoy it. Persona 5 Royal hijacked everything I loved about turn-based RPGs and stole my heart with the Phantom Thieves. Thank you guys so much for watching our top 5 favorite turn-based RPGs. Let us know down in the comments what your favorite turn-based games are.
And if you like this video, please be sure to click that like button.
And if you want to hang out with us again, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, and we'll see you next time.